Okay, Jeff, we are back rolling live here at the T3 conference in Dallas, Texas. You're going to wrap us up for today, and I couldn't think of a better way to do so. I know you had a session yesterday. Well, first let me introduce you. I had a little bit of a break, so we get back into my rhythm. Jeff Coyle, who's the founder and CEO of Libretto. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. So as I was saying prematurely, you did a session yesterday. I wasn't able to attend it, but I heard it was quite good. Could you just maybe share with us what you were talking about?
Sure. The primary and most important thing that advisors do is actually give advice. And our business is to actually elevate the quality of that advice. So what I was talking about yesterday was, how can we advance the quality of advice within our industry? And Libretto is really the next generation of financial planning and investment portfolio advice.
Okay, sounds good. So that's kind of like a teaser. So
Yeah.
how exactly do you do that?
Well, I think what's interesting is Libretto was initially built to manage the wealth of the most affluent families.
Okay.
But what our mission really is to
We want to make sure we hear all of you.
Oh,
there we go.
You got me?
Perfect.
Okay. So, Libretto was really built to manage the wealth of the most affluent families, but our mission is to actually take those advanced methods and bring them to everyone.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you start Libretto?
That's a good question. It's been in development for probably 8 years. We've been using it for about 6 years, and then we released it to the market quietly about 2 years, and we just started to market it recently.
So wait, did you start it almost 15, 16 years ago?
No, about 8 years ago.
Oh, 8 years
About
is when
8
it
years
started.
ago.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So 8 years ago was the start of the development, and launch was about 2 years after development started.
2 years ago was
Oh,
our
2 years
launch.
ago, okay,
You might
gotcha.
say we've been using it quietly for about 6 years,
Got it. Okay.
but we released it to the broader market about 2 years ago.
Okay, so now you say it's designed to, or for the, sounds like the very high net worth, but it's now usable by anyone, even the mass affluent, yes?
Without question. In fact, what's interesting is the methods that we use, while they're nice with ultra affluent clients, they're far more important to regular people. And the reason is they can't afford to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're actually doing, is we're taking these more advanced methods. And when you think about that, we have a saying that is we want to help advisors make all of their clients feel like they're worth 100 million.
Yeah.
And as we do that, what we're doing is we're moving away from risk questionnaires, model portfolios, and Monte Carlos. So there'll be none of that in our system. And what we do instead is we use a liability framework to apply life cycle planning.
Ooh.
And then we actually build a total wealth portfolio, which is really interesting because when we build portfolios in Libretto, you're incorporating homes and mortgages. You'll incorporate human capital, which is the present value of someone's earnings. And for most people, it absolutely dominates their wealth, and yet they're completely unaware of it.
Okay. So one quick sidebar question. So
Yeah.
if I treat my $2 million household as if they're a $100 million household, make them feel that way,
Yeah.
can I bill on $100 million?
If you
'Cause
can
that would
pull
be
that
awesome.
off, you're a heck of a salesman. But go at it. Go at it. What's interesting though is when you say a $2 million household, that's a good way of framing it, because most people that think they're worth $2 million, I'll take somebody that's mid-career. Let's say they've got $1 million sitting in a portfolio, and then they've got $1 million in a house. They're worth $2 million.
Okay.
They're actually probably worth about $5 million. And the reason is they're unaware of the value of their human capital, which is the present value of their future earnings, and they're also unaware of the value of their Social Security. And what's kind of fascinating about Social Security, now let's fast forward, you're just about ready to retire. The present value of someone's Social Security, a couple that's retiring, it's worth somewhere between $1.25 million and $2 million. And what's interesting about that is it's an illiquid, long-term, inflation-protected bond, perfectly matched to the way they spend money. So what you want to do is you actually want to fold that into the bond portfolio so that we don't unintentionally over-allocate to fixed income.
Interesting.
And this is an example of where these very advanced methods are far more important to normal people.
Right. So to my ear at least, it sounds a little bit like cash flow-based financial planning, or is it not?
No, it's not. I wouldn't say it's cash flow.
Okay.
Because cash flow is trying to monitor all of the incomes and distributions and Social Security and all of that. This is actually a present value system. It's a liabilities framework. And what we do is, families basically have three things that they're generally trying to accomplish. They have their personal lifestyle, There are certain things they'd like to accomplish with their family, and they might want to affect society in some way. And what we literally do is we identify the characteristic, the suitability of risk for every dollar they're going to spend. And then we can take each one of those dollars and match it with suitable asset allocations and build them a highly personalized portfolio entirely driven by the life that they envisioned. So there's no questionnaires, there's no models, and it's all systematized.
Interesting. So how do you get the data into the system? Conversationally, I assume, or?
Two ways. There's data that comes from a classic portfolio accounting system. We have integrations with most portfolio accounting systems. Click a button, the data flows in, now you know their portfolio. But there's a lot of data that's not in those portfolio accounting systems. It could be the value of a home, a mortgage, it could be stock in the company you work for, a real estate property. So Libretto enables you to complete that picture. And then the very large component of their wealth that they don't see would be what we call human future resources. The present value of your Social Security, your human capital, expected estate inflows from the generation above you, or maybe an insurance payoff as an example.
Okay.
And when you put all that together, people tend to be worth probably half more than what they think they are. So it's quite significant.
Interesting. Okay. And as we're coming up on time, just one thing I want to get a little bit more granular with. So earlier in our conversation, you mentioned that this allows us to treat, a $1 million household like a $100 million household. Yeah. Can you give me one real specific example of that?
Well, when you think about, risk management is a process of identifying the potential threats to someone's life and then systematically addressing it. So when you think about the things that risks that we need to address the risk in a portfolio. That's called market risk. But we also need to address the risks of people's businesses, their properties, and then their personal risks. Think death, disability, personal liability as an example. And so when you think about that, and you think about a Monte Carlo as an example, it doesn't address any of those. And so what you really want to do is you actually want to apply tailored risk management. And so our systems enable you to apply hedges, protective reserves, insurance applications, and other solutions where you're systematically addressing the risks so that they actually have very high confidence that they're going to be financially successful.
Does your system actually spit out investment recommendations?
Yes.
What's the output? Yes, okay.
It'll give you a sense of the sufficiency of your wealth. Do you have enough? Enough in total, enough that's liquid, enough that's protective. It'll actually build a highly personalized portfolio, tell you exactly how to invest the assets. It'll systematically identify the types of insurance or entity structures you might want to have, or the open items that relate to planning as an example. So it's going back to your question, it's basically you're delivering a family office experience, which, by the way, is just a fancy name for comprehensive wealth management.
That's right.
But we do it in a more sophisticated way.
All right, real good. That's a good place to put a pin in it for today. Jeff Coyle from Libretto, thanks a lot for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so that's going to do it for today's coverage of T3. I will be back tomorrow first thing with another 4 or 5 segments, so come back for that. And for now, on behalf of goRIA, fueled by Investment News, I'm Chuck Vela, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Jeff, thanks again.